September 26, 1983, a date that would become etched in history. The Cold War cast a long shadow over the world, a period marked by intense rivalry and suspicion between the United States and the Soviet Union. The world unaware of how close it was to annihilation. The threat of nuclear war loomed large, a constant, terrifying presence in the lives of millions. Deep within a Soviet bunker, a man named Stanislav Petrov stood between humanity and oblivion. The air hung heavy with anticipation. Every second felt like an eternity as the weight of potential catastrophe pressed down on those present. Every blip on the screen, every whirring of the machines amplified the tension. The room was filled with the hum of technology, each sound a reminder of the high stakes. Petrov, a lieutenant colonel in the Soviet Air Defense Forces, stared intently at the display. His eyes scanned the data, searching for any signs of an impending attack. His job to monitor the early warning system for signs of American nuclear attack. It was a role that required precision, vigilance, and nerves of steel. On this night, the unthinkable occurred. The radar system detected what appeared to be multiple incoming missiles from the United States. The alarms blared and the room was thrown into chaos. Petrov's heart raced. He knew that if he reported the launch, it could trigger a full-scale nuclear retaliation. The fate of the world rested on his shoulders. He had to make a choice: trust the technology, which indicated an attack, or trust his instincts, which told him something was off. In a moment of profound bravery, Petrov chose to trust his instincts. He reported the alert as a false alarm, a decision that would later be vindicated. The missiles were never launched. Stanislav Petrov's decision that night averted a potential nuclear disaster. His calm under pressure and his willingness to question the system saved countless lives. Today we live in a world that was spared from unimaginable devastation, thanks to the courage of one man. A night on the brink turned into a testament to the power of human judgment and bravery. This is the story of Stanislav Petrov, the man who saved the world. Stanislav Petrov, born in 1939, was a child of war. He joined the Soviet military, rising through the ranks to a position of immense responsibility. He was assigned to the organization that oversaw the new early warning system intended to detect ballistic missile attacks from NATO countries, placed him at the heart of the Soviet Union's defense system. The fate of millions rested on his shoulders. He was a quiet, unassuming man thrust into a role of extraordinary consequence. The incident occurred at a time of severely strained relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. Shortly after midnight, the computer system flashed an ominous message. Missile launch detected. One intercontinental ballistic missile was heading toward the Soviet Union from the United States. Then another. Later, the computers identified 4 additional missiles in the air, all directed towards the Soviet Union. The United States had launched a nuclear strike, or so it seemed. Panic surged through the bunker. Officers shouted orders, their faces pale with fear. The room crackled with the electricity of impending doom. Petrov, however, remained calm. He had a decision to make, one that would determine the fate of the world. Protocol dictated that Petrov report the attack immediately. Retaliation, swift and merciless, would be the only response. Millions would die. But something didn't feel right. The number of missiles, the lack of corroborating evidence, it all seemed too improbable. Petrov's gut told him something was wrong. He chose to trust his instincts over the cold logic of the computer system. He made a decision that defied orders, a decision that defied death. He reported the alert as a false alarm. Petrov suspected that the computer system was malfunctioning again, despite having no direct means to confirm this. The Soviet Union's land radar was incapable of detecting missiles beyond the horizon. According to the permanent mission of the Russian Federation to the UN, nuclear retaliation requires that multiple sources confirm an attack, minutes stretched into an eternity. The world held its breath. Petrov waited, his heart pounding in his chest. If he was wrong, millions would perish. He would be responsible. No roar of missiles, no blinding flash of nuclear fire. It was subsequently determined that the false alarms were caused by a rare alignment of sunlight on high-altitude clouds and the satellites, an error later corrected by cross-referencing a geostationary satellite. Had Petrov reported incoming American missiles, his superiors might have launched an assault against the United States, precipitating a corresponding nuclear response from the United States. Petrov declared the system's indication a false alarm. Later, it was apparent that he was right. No missiles were approaching and the computer detection system was malfunctioning. The Soviet Union, however, did not see a hero. The incident was deemed an embarrassment, a failure of their technology. Petrov underwent intense questioning by his superiors about his actions. Even though Petrov was initially praised for his calm under pressure, he was later reprimanded for not following protocol. He was forced into early retirement, his actions shrouded in secrecy. The world remained unaware of the debt it owed to this unassuming Soviet officer. He returned to his life, haunted by the night he saved the world. He received no reward. According to Petrov, this was because the incident and other bugs found in the missile detection system embarrassed his superiors and the influential scientists who were responsible for it, so that if he had been officially rewarded, they would have had to be punished. Years later, the incident became known publicly in 1998. The world finally learned of Petrov's heroism, his courage in the face of unimaginable pressure. He was hailed as a hero, a man who had prevented a global catastrophe. His decision was based on his intuition and the belief that a real attack would involve hundreds of missiles, not just a few. This judgment call, made under extreme duress, saved millions of lives. Petrov received numerous international honors, including the World Citizen Award and the Dresden Peace Prize. His actions were celebrated by peace organizations and governments alike, recognizing the profound impact of his decision. Petrov's story resonated with people worldwide, reminding them of the importance of critical thinking and moral courage in the face of potential disaster. His story, once buried in secrecy, became a beacon of peace in a world still grappling with the threat of nuclear war. The recognition brought a sense of vindication. Petrov was finally able to shed the burden of that fateful night, to share his story with the world. He used his platform to advocate for peace, to warn of the dangers of nuclear proliferation. He met with world leaders, urging them to learn from the mistakes of the past. His message was simple. We are all responsible for preventing such a catastrophe from ever happening again.